All right, so we've got an open, we feel pretty good about, and now I'm moving into timing. So now I'm going to go, assuming I had all my shots in place, I would time them all. And I would also, and again, any shots that don't work, any shots that are too long, too short, these are all the things that you can take care of while you're going through this step of it. Probably all scenics. Now, I'm going to also point out just making what an offline would look like here. I'm also going to point out that if you notice my timeline, I've left room at the front. A lot of people will start editing right here at the front. I like having workspace on both ends of my edit. So, I will use my raw footage that I'm going to draw from to build my open, near the open. I don't always want to have to go all the way down my timeline if I can just grab it here and do it here. And then as I get further down the project, I have some shots. I might grab a section and put it in behind. But the idea is I don't want you editing right up here at the front of the timeline. Give yourself, put your edit in the middle. I'm 21 minutes down the timeline here. So that I have workspace on both sides, because you end up having to do a lot of copy and pasting. With a shorter video, if I only had 10 minutes of raw video to make, I would put my raw video right in the line. In this case, I have 45 minutes. I don't want my timeline to get so long that it's hard to zoom in precisely. The longer the timeline, the more that's in it, the harder it is to zoom down to these little minute areas. So in this case, I've got a raw timeline. But again, the beauty of the raw is that I can look at 45 minutes worth of video and find a section quickly. Okay, I need that twilight stuff where they have the gear out. Oh, that's right here, right? I don't have to open up 10 clips to find them. This is huge, guys. This will save you hours. Put your raw video in its own timeline where you can scroll it to find what you want. And like I said, if you only have 10 minutes, you can do it right next to your edit. And then you're just scrolling down. Oh, there's that shot. Oh, there's that shot. Whoops, there's that shot. And you just cut them out or copy them or however you want to manipulate them and bring them over to your online. Okay. Yeah, I will edit this. Maybe we'll review. Well, we'll get another whack at this. Let's just see what's happening. Now, I don't like the hard cut there. So the first thing I'm working on my edits. I guess I'm in transition. I could just work on timing, but early on in the project, I'm a little more interested in how it looks and feels. I think it builds confidence. I think the better I feel about the beginning, the better I feel about everything that's happening. That's a perfect shot. So I need a shot here, another shot that goes with them by the truck. And this is where my scrolling through raw can really help me. And for some reason, when I loaded this, my shots don't seem quite in order. But if you remember how you shot things, you can often find things very quickly. Yeah, this is the day, the next morning. You can see I've got a wide shot here, but then I've zoomed in, and that's the perfect thing for me to to use for that second cut that I want there. Save, very nice. V, you start using your keyboard shortcuts. V, Control C, go to my edit, V. Now I'm trying to drag this, but it wants to keep sticking to these open areas. That's a function controlled by this magnet, okay? And it's called snapping. And snapping is great if I want to bump something right up to the end of the last clip. That snap really helps. But when I'm in here where I don't want it, I'm working in too fine a space, I'm going to toggle it off. So you got to know where that is, because it'll drive you crazy when you're doing fine editing. And there's a keyboard shortcut, S, so I can use S to toggle it on and off. But now I have free reign to put this where I want. And I can see right away he's moving that bucket, so I'm going to pick it up right there. This is one of those timing. Then I'm going using floating. The emphasis on that word is timing. Yeah, cutting on the action. Even though this is not continuing, I mean, this guy was over on his left side in the prior shot, but that bucket. Okay, that shot works perfectly there, but what I have, and this is tricky with music videos, I have you have these instrumental areas for our purpose. Ideally, I have some close-up shots. Now you can see how odd it is. Where we suddenly have this creek, so it's a perfect place. We're changing. We've walked in the real world. We walked from the parking area to this creek. And I'm trying to get my default. There we go. Just throw a dissolve in here. And I put a time in. So let's see if now this, I would call this an emotion shot. I would save this for that one of those highlighted areas, but again, just keep moving. Okay, I've got a beautiful action point there where he flips his hand down. Looks like I really struggle with this shot. I mean, one thing I try to do in the field is like I know why here. There we go. If I'm rocking the shot, I will make sure that I get a good 5 seconds of whatever I was after. But I missed because I was rocking. I have this quick shot, but then it starts bobbling again in the rocks. Yeah. But after the bobble, I know, okay, now I actually have the shot, and I need another 5. I got to roll another 5-10 seconds to get something worthwhile here. So you can see I held that for another 10 seconds after I'd wasted 10 seconds getting it to settle down. Discipline in the field, discipline shooting.
I did that.
Yeah. it sucks when you have the perfect shot, but you didn't hold it long enough. Now, as you can see, it looks a little weird because I'm not cutting on action. Now you'll buy it, but I just noticed this. So I see right there where he reaches, that's a good action point. So I can just slide this clip down about that far, and now that action will be on the edit there. And I have to check my front end and see if I compromised it, which I did. So I got to shorten my dissolve because I'm picking up a little bit of black. And then if there's movement in this shot, it will complement that right there. So I'm going to probably just the hunter. There's a huge difference between starting still and picking it up in the middle of that. It's as simple as that. So this is when we're, when I'm looking at optimizing cutting on action, that's what I'm talking about. It's just tweaking. Something about the motion that makes it work better. Okay. So you can see I've done some transition work, but mostly I'm getting the right shot. My edits, my transitions are correct now. And then keeping in touch with the excitement of music. Again, I don't like the stat. I don't like being on a still there to open, so I'm going to even camera movement, acts as cutting on the action. And I was recording him, so now I've got too much nat sound, and I would go deal with the nat sound later, but you can adjust your audio if you expand the track, right? I grabbed this area and pulled it down. I could just drop this audio. I should be able to grab this bar and bring it down. I don't need to get, I don't want silent video. You definitely want your nat sound. Right now, it's not my focus, so I'm just moving it down so I don't keep hearing his voice because he's full volume. I have it mic'd up. Okay, and now we have now I need a really good shot, right? Because the crescendo is you and me going fishing. Camera was struggling to focus in the dark. Now, I need to edit more quickly, right, to keep the energy pace, the visual pace. I was just eyeballing. So what makes sense here is, I'm going to grab cut. What makes sense here is they have in their hands. Here he's picking up. I'm going to put this shot first and then cut to the shot of him with the bottle in his hand. So I'm going to use V on my keyboard to get out of the razor. V is your cursor that you move. And this is a little soft. And again, I was eyeballing it. It was in the dark. It looked good in the viewfinder. But I can use a sharpen filter, and that would be during color correction. I'm just going to use a slip tool. I'm going to slide back to where right there it is movement down. Right, the start of the movement, that should edit nicely. Right? So now it's starting to actually work. So I would continue in this vein till I was through this part. I'd have all my shots and the timing. And now I'm confident, like, wow, I've got the shots that I need where I want them and they work together and I'm good. Then I go back to the beginning, right? And I've already started to work with transitions, but I would go through and decide where I need to go and where this should probably be designed. Dark, right? So right there, I would find a spot. I'm going to just try a dissolve there and see if I like that. And I'm going to stick with it. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. If time has passed, I'm communicating that with the dissolve. Even though the hard cut worked, that's the thinking. All right, and so then you've also seen how I've looked for cutting on the action, right? So I would find perfect action, see the red guy moving, but then this shot opens and it's kind of bobbly. So, and I've got action of him untwisting, so I'm going to fix this edit. So this would be, cutting on the action and cleaning up the edits, optimizing them. Again, because that movement, it works, but I also cleaned up a bobble. It's easy to do, so do it, right? And you just keep going over the piece, looking for these different values. Okay, so now I'm through transitions, cutting on the action. Now we do the recomposing. Now that's pretty well shot. I'm pretty happy with that shot, but there is a lot of open space. I'm looking at my thirds, what's going on my thirds. And typically, I find that you can always make things a little better if you bring them a little closer to your viewer. So here's what we do. I highlight the clip. I go up to editing or effects. Let's see. And what I'm looking for is this, effect controls. Okay? And when don't crash. See, I got this not responding. Oh, now it's not always a death knell. Sometimes just thinking. But the moment I see that, what's the first thing? Control S. Control S. Let's save. Let's make sure if we get a glitch, if this thing is saved, then we just
save 5 copies.
So effect controls. When you have a clip highlighted, effect controls gives you your motion. Here's my audio too. I can control volume. You can do it with that little slider thing here. If your track is wide enough, you can also do it here. But I open this scale. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And I'm just going to scale this up a little bit. And you can just drag over that number. Okay? And I'm going to scale up. And I want to look kind of toward my finish, the end point. I want to make that look good. So I can bring it up a little bit. I can take a little bit of headroom off that mountain by scaling up a little bit. And then if I decide I want it, now that I've got scale, I can also slide things up and down a little bit. If I wanted to crop the mountain and feature the fence, I could go side to side. I want to put this post right on a third line. So that's recomposing, right? And now it looks kind of polished. Some of these you can toggle on and off. And it's really cool to make a change and then toggle it on and off, and you can see the difference you made. With these, I'd have to reset. I could hit reset, and it's going to go back to what I had. But it's really, I like being able to toggle. But you can see getting a little closer makes things a little more dramatic. And so I think there's a lot of power in recomposition. And I'll just look at, do I like it even better zoomed in a little bit? And if I do, then I will use height and width to, I think I want this area right on a sweet spot. Because that's pretty cool. So I'll adjust for thirds. And again, you know, I can't toggle on and off here, but I can reset my parameters and decide if my improvements are helping. And I think they are. And they generally do. I just like, I like things a little closer. I'm not real happy with that. That's the point. But we're recomposing. So again, I got to highlight my clip. I just checked. Does it look better zoomed in a little bit? Sure. Drop it down, get that mountain. Okay, so that's basically what I do. And you can see, you know, this window will change. Whichever clip is highlighted is what you're working on. And I can also solve a problem. Like one of the problems I have here is these two. The big one is that he's on a different side. You can also, if you have two shots that you want to put together, but they're too similar in size and composition, make one bigger. You know, change the scale so that it works better. And the real answer here is, all right, he's moved over. That means time has passed, which means I can use a dissolve. And when I'm kind of hybridizing, I'm going to shorten this dissolve by half. I'm going to make it 15 frames instead of 30. And that now makes sense to the viewer why this guy was on. That it technically is a jump cut. If you lose continuity in where people are and you use a real-time cut, hard cut, and a guy just magically jumps across the screen, it's a poor edit, and it's you know, it's technically what they call a jump cut. And so a dissolve is your first opportunity to fix it, and does it work? Yeah. Obviously, time passed for him to walk over here. Okay, so then I just go through, and I mean, this part is really fun. You know, that I'm not going to recompose. That's kind of like all the way across. This I compose them on the third, but I might look at it again. Do I want it? Do I like the effect more? I might look for balance, light and dark here, right? I've got a nice light and dark. I might look for depth, get those rocks in the foreground, right? So I could play with this and start thinking compositionally. Wow, look at those rocks. I don't want to lose those, so I've got to scale down a little bit. But light and dark balance works better if I zoom this up a little bit and move them over. And again, it's really nice when you can toggle, but I'm going to assume that I've done a and I might, you know, a lot of times it's a trial and error, right? I might, as I watch this, I might go, you know, there's just not enough headroom. They look crowded, and I don't want that. So I'm going to fix this, reopen it up. A lot of times I do. A lot of times I go back to the okay, so now, all right, well, great. This is coming along nicely, right? It's getting better and better every time I work on it. So now, color correction, right? Color correction is a filter. Now they do have a tool, I'll show you, you can do color right here. And here's my effects. I would find my video effects, my color correction here in Lumetri Color. This is really cool, all right? It's open creative. I don't want creative. All I want is basic correction. When I open that up in the right-hand panel, I get these controls. This is my sweet spot area. Assuming my white balance and all that's good in the camera, I usually don't. This is for fixing problems you had shooting. But everything can benefit from brighten up the brights. So that's it. Brighten the exposure or the highlights. A lot of times I'm going to leave the exposure alone, but I'm just going to brighten up the brights. And then I'm going to look and see the mid-range, which here is shadows, and decide how, how dramatic, or, I can look at changes here and decide where I want this. But I'll usually, if my footage is a little underexposed, I'll usually bump the highlights. Definitely I always like to brighten it, makes it more vibrant. Mid-range depends on the needs of the shot, but then you're going to add, it's looking a little washed out. You compensate by adding back in the blacks. And you don't want to get too heavy, right? I mean, it depends if you're really, but in the beginning, just go for something that looks and feels natural. So in the end, this doesn't change a whole lot, but it does. See how dull the camera, the raw looks? Here's where I can toggle. And then when I toggle on, wow, suddenly it looks better, looks more finished. And I might decide, wow, that has a natural feel to it, maybe I've overdone it. So I would just scale these back a little bit, add a little less. But the key thing is, I'm making some subtle difference so that when I render it out, it just looks more finished. The big thing is this vibrancy. And then the last thing, so highlights, shadows, blacks. A three-way color corrector as high, mid, low. And that's what we're basically working in. You don't have to worry about all of these. Exposure, highlights, and whites all basically do the same thing. They brighten it. So maybe a little differently, but just make sure you're working in a high range, a mid range, a low range, and making adjustments on all of your shots. The last thing is saturation, right? If I reduce saturation, I take all the color out, it goes black and white, or I can oversaturate and make it look really vibrant. We tend to, in the beginning, oversaturate. It's not good. Film, which is sort of our standard, tends to be a little washed out. So I might saturate this just a bit more just because it was kind of dull, flat light anyway. But be careful with oversaturating. You don't want to, it's okay to be a little washed out because it looks filmic. Now here's what's cool. These controls are going to stay open and I can just click through each image and redo. Highlight, drop the mids, in this case because it's so bright. See what blacks I need to make it feel balanced. Okay, they're getting sharper. And then this is one where a little saturation is going to go a long way, right? I mean,
that looks good. Right?
Well, why wouldn't you saturate, right? So look at the difference.
Yeah.
And look how quickly I can do this, right? I just jump from shot to shot to shot. Highlight. Mids are good. Add a little black back. Maybe saturate a little bit. Go on to the next. You can also cut and paste. You can cut and paste these settings from one clip to the other, but you'll find that every clip basically benefits from individual treatment. But you can see how quickly I can go through 5 or 6. So these things don't take long, but God, do they make the difference in how good your stuff looks and feels. Okay. So that's why that laundry list of steps is the right way for you guys to start onlining. You do all of these things, and suddenly your piece, look at the difference. Raw, right? Raw is no good. That's why even if your footage is so good that you only tweak an exposure, a hair, do it. Make sure you've done some color correction on every piece. And you watch your own work so many times. Like I'm gonna time this so that he picks that up when he goes, you and me. Right? It's almost there, but he's a little early, and that's where I can use this slip. And if I just slide this back, as long as the front of the clip doesn't it doesn't create a problem, right? Like I got a bobble in there. Moved it about a half second down the timeline. Right now his hand grabs it right with the music. Little touches like that can be really fun and cool. This is soft, right? I was shooting at night. I thought I was doing my best, but autofocus wasn't working, and the viewfinder is just always looking focus. So there's a filter. Media browser. I'm going to go Window, Effects. And when I find my effects, this is, I'm not as familiar with Premiere, it gets funky. I'm going to go to Editing. That closes out those color tools. If I go to Color, that will often open up this window. Editing, here's Effects. I can go Effects, and they've got a ton of them. So I'm just going to search for the one I want, Sharpen. Whoop. These are filters, okay? So here's my blur and sharpen. Here's my sharpen filter. And I'm just going to drag that right onto the thing, okay? Now, it doesn't do much because it comes in at 0, but I go to these effect controls, and there's my sharpen filter, and I can adjust the amount. And as I drag this up, this should get a little sharper. Now it's pretty blurry. And the sharpen filter can, it gets very grainy if you overdo it. So a slightly soft shot can really benefit. I mean, you can put 30 pixels of sharpen on and make it look like, really clean. In this case, I can't make it perfect, but I can certainly improve it. And so I'm going to be pretty aggressive, 88, 90, that's pretty high for sharpen. Normally you're adding like 10 to 20. I just have to decide, at what point am I overdoing it. Looks pretty grainy. Dial it back. And I'm just going to find where I'm getting some help from it, but it's not drawing attention to itself. Okay? So lots going on. I will, and email me to remind me if I forget, but I want to type up that list of steps. And I want you guys over the weekend do all of these steps. Get familiar with these tools, see the difference that they make. And you will end up with a very clean video that's been treated professionally in all the key areas: timing, transition, composition, filters. And then there's audio mixing. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But let's start with this, and then turn in what you've got Monday night by midnight, and we'll get together Tuesday and we'll start looking at video. And the idea of Tuesday, what I want you all to do Tuesday is be able to answer our questions. If I say, what is your key point here? What are your core values? Have an answer. What part of the video are we supposed to notice the emotional impact, and how did you try to achieve it? Be ready to explain that, right? Because that's what we've been working on. Not just creating video, but creating video to do it to achieve certain goals. I'm not going to not always have everyone get up and present their video. Some of you might tell us ahead of time. But I also want us to watch some videos, and without any setup from the producer, we can ask the audience, what moved you? What caught your eye on the first and perhaps only viewing? And the producer can hear what the audience got. And then we can find out if it's what they intended, right? So I'm gonna do a little bit of, some we'll set up and you'll explain ahead of time what you were after. Some we're just gonna watch and we're gonna reverse it, ask the audience, what did you get out of it? And see if it's what the producer was after, okay? So it should be good. We'll spend both sessions next week. We'll spend some time on everyone's video. Okay?
Where is the dissolve?
So dissolve, you get a dissolve, it is an effect.
Yeah.
So you could go into this effects window. And it's often not showing, but you can find effects. You can go window, effects, or there's 3 different places to find it. And there's so much going on. Get effects open. You can search for the dissolves. And it's the cross dissolves that fade. But the shortcut is, that is also the default transition. So with this, if I click, see this little red arrow I'm getting on it? If I click and apply default transition, it drops a 1-second dissolve.
Okay,
So that's how you,
because I was wondering how you were determining the length of it.
okay, and then if you want to change the length, so here's my dissolve. You can just make sure you're zoomed in enough. But you can just grab any end.
Stretch and pull it and reduce it.
Yeah.
But
And then you see the duration, right? So there's 2 seconds, there's 1 second.
And that's most preferable, it's 1 second.
You just stay on sort of even increments, like 10-frame increments, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, another question, what about lab?
So I need
Like
to,
tonight, I'm
yeah.
gonna come and I'm gonna stay after I got a class.
glad you guys, I gotta call public safety and talk to a lady right now and find out about that. We called last night for another class because no one knows how this works. Everyone's like, I did fill out the form, but there were no instructions after that on what to do. So let's find out right now.
And, like, I'm on my lunch hour. And then I gotta stay after a little bit after work to make it for this time, and then I got that class after.
Hi Shaylee, I'm looking for Jamie.
For Jamie Lloyd, may I ask who this is?
Yeah, this is John Young. I'm a faculty member and I have a question about giving students access to the buildings after hours to do computer work.
Oh, okay, perfect. Let me put you on hold and see if she is available. Can I hear you grab your Google ID?
Yeah, you know what? My wallet's in my car. I can look it up for you if I have to, but.
No, you're good. What is your first name again?
So it's John Young and I'm the video lecturer in the communications department.
Okay, perfect. I'll see if she's in office and I'll transfer you over.
And, so what I'll do is I'll come in here and lay it out, do the best I can, because I didn't take the first class. And,
So you're still brand
but I did do a lot of photographs and stuff, and I still want to get a few more shots. But I got most of it. So,
You know, the first one will take a long time, but you'll get it.
and I'm really excited.
Jamie?
Are you still there?
Yeah.
So she did not pick up, but I can forward you to the email with access at IAC.edu to request that access. And usually they're pretty good at checking that and getting back to you.
So, you know, some senior professors here, you know, and I've always had access, but the students don't. You know, there's an after hours access form that everyone says they filled out,
Yeah.
but there's really no instruction about what happens after they fill out the form. Do they need to come over to public safety and get their card adjusted? Or, you know, if
They
they,
can adjust the card from our public safety building, they just need to have that approval from the professor who already has the access.
Okay, that's true.
so they filled out the form. How do I approve it for them?
So you're gonna need to get in contact with access control so that way they can provide that access, and that's how you email the access at ISD.edu.
And I just said, let me do this real quick.
And I have another, my other professor at 5:30 also my paperwork. and,
All right, I'm sorry, Shaylee, let me, so I'm going, okay, so access dot,
No, it's access@isc.edu, and that's Bagel Current Access email.
okay, and so then I just tell them, hey, I'm John Young, I'm teaching video, I have a bunch of students who filled out the form, can you grant them all access?
Yeah, basically, and then they should be able to provide that to you. I can also provide Bagel Current Access extension, if you would like that as well.
Sure.
So their extension is 3525.
Bengal access. And so is this something that, so I have to basically set up the playing field ahead of time by authorizing, and then these students fill out the form, and does it kind of automatically happen once they submit the form, as long as I've done the prep work?
I am not entirely sure what Bagel Current Access does with their system, so they would definitely be able to help you with that question. I know that on our side, with dispatch and our officers, we can create building unlock requests, but if it's for an everyday training situation, then you get that access on a Bagel Card.
Yeah. Okay, so what was there, I'm sorry, do you have the full number for Bengal access?
Yeah, it's the 282-3525.
3525. Okay.
Yep, and that's Bagel Card access name included.
Okay, and then access at ISC is also a good way to reach them.
Yep, yep.
Okay, those are the people that I really need to talk to, so I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Have a great day.
and I'll call them as well.
All right, I'll update you, Emma, once I get this figured out. Thanks for asking.
Bye.
Okay, bye.